Alrighty, so a couple more coming in. So yeah, again, just appreciate everyone taking their time. I think everyone who resells Microsoft at any form of scale, I don't think many people sleep easy at night with the confidence that every single moving part that is out there is perfectly under control. And over the next 30 minutes, we just want to share with you the lessons that we've picked up now looking at this problem for over 5 years and watching NCE from day dot, even before they released it. And just some things to look out for, some of the pitfalls, and we'll share all of this information with you and try to keep it a little bit interactive as well. So by way of introduction, I think I've met the vast majority of people on here, but for those that haven't, my name's Adam. I'm one of the co-founders here at CloudOlive. And as mentioned, been building CloudOlive for just over 5 years. Prior to that, 10 years at Autotask, listening to Autotask partners ask us, so how does everybody else manage license fluctuations across the board, across all vendors? And we never had an answer, so we set out to try and solve that elusive, big old problem. And Megan Gower, who I also used to work with at Autotask, Megan's been with us for a couple of years now, and I'm sure a lot of people would have received emails asking if you wanted to come and learn a little bit more about NCEs and what we're doing. But she looks after all of the EMEA region for partners and for any new MSPs that are considering learning about us. So if we'll just say that if there's any questions that you have, there's a chat box here, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with regards to Teams. Just pop them in as we go. Megan and I and Ali, who's also on the CloudOlive team, will be there to try and field them in flow, or certainly have some time towards the end of the call. Okay, so a couple of the logos that we love to share. We work with MSPs now in just under 20 different countries. In general, if they run Autotask or ConnectWise for the main module, there's a big gap in those systems that we've looked to plug. And then 6 months ago, we released NCE, and NCE does not matter what PSA you run, providing you resell Microsoft, that's it. Okay, it doesn't matter if you buy from a distributor or go direct. We're reading directly from Microsoft itself and then displaying the information that hopefully helps save you a huge amount of time and possible risk. So the next slide is just going to talk through the problem that we're seeing, again, for over 4 years since NCE even started to be considered by Microsoft, and many would say a bit of a botched rollout when it started and restarted and keep changing things. It's not getting any easier. So we'll go through and share some information, some slides. We do actually have a new release coming out late this week or early next, which we'll touch on some of the new capability. But some of the reports that we found MSPs are often trying to get their hands on are, and the main one thing that is not typically accessible within the distributor is who's assigned to what license type on which service. Generally, like we can see that, we're getting billed for 20, but the fact is 18 assigned allows us to do a lot more with that key data point. How to then leverage and use that data in an Excel format for extra workflows in the business. And just a really clever way that we can now cross-check distributor, Microsoft, and your PSA if you run one of those two systems in pretty quick succession. So let's go through it. Okay, cool. So why did we head off and try to figure out this Microsoft challenge? When NCE got launched many years ago now, we were reading that, or it was about to get launched maybe 6 months out, and we were like, oh, that does not sound very easy. Anything about that. If you recall, once upon a time, it was a 72-hour window to change your license, and they gracefully opened that up to 7 days after a fair bit of kickback. Like, we were like, this is ridiculous. So we bought a few domains at that time. We bought Microsoft72.com. We bought MSFT72.com because that was their ticker in the stock exchange. And we bought NCEasy.com. We had no idea what we were going to do with that, but we just thought we're heading off into this licensing world. at some point in time, we will figure out how to help with whatever NCE is going to grow into. And 6 months ago, this is what we began to release and rolling out to our partners. And there's even more complexity, of course, like the different. I assume everyone in here is impacted as well, but the new pricing, like there's 3 different tiers: annual, monthly. Obviously different commits, and like last thing you really want to do is, one thing, sell it at a loss, fine, but forget to on-bill it, or even worse, get recontracted into something you can't pass on to your customers. I'll show you the economics behind that slip up, which we see all too often. We'll just run through this real quick. Okay, so if you are buying a license for $10 a month, okay, the cost over that for 12 months is very simply just 10 times 12. So that's your cost. That's what you're committed to. If you're making 16% margin, so you can scale it up and down based on wherever you actually sit when it comes to Microsoft, but let's call it 16%. If you forget to bill for whatever reason, a slip up occurs for 2 months within that year, your total margin on that license is negative. It's essentially zero. Like you've lost a tiny amount of money for that entire year of service support. And then when you extrapolate this out into scale, because if people say, oh, like one license here and there, like that to us really, it almost, we've seen so many mistakes of this nature now that believing that it just comes out in the wash, I don't believe is at all good enough. And it's something that does not need to happen at all, ever again. Okay. And that, like, hopefully that just resonates to go, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all, right? Miss 2 months of Microsoft, you've lost everything for that year. There's no point in actually servicing that client for these services, of course. So in terms of NCEs, okay, the core parameters here is we're integrated directly in with Microsoft Partner Center. So it does not matter if you buy from any number of distributors at all. It doesn't matter if you buy from 2 distributors or more. It doesn't matter if you're transitioning from one to the other. It doesn't matter if you buy direct, for the small number of MSPs that do that. All of your tenants get centralized into one view that we're seeing here. So company names down the left, all the different services that those clients have. And then here we're just going to have a number which should really align to exactly what you're getting charged from the distributor. Why? Because that's the commit NCE amount. It's committed for a year. The renewal is the end of November 2025. That ain't going to be moving anytime soon. It could go up. It's not going to go down. Fine. The next step of that, though, is actually being able to see a couple more things. That date, that commit, whether or not it's on a renew status as well. All really useful information, especially if you've got many annuals in particular, commits, and annual commits, even more important, I think. Being able to see all of this information in one view to save you having to go into each and every tenant within Microsoft, which in our experience is what a lot of MSPs are forced to do to try and get this type of information when they need it. And if you're extremely busy when it comes to renewals in a specific month, then like something like this and just bringing it all into one view can make everyone's world a lot easier. Okay. Going a touch further. Okay. So the distributor will give us this information. Great. We can likely see that information. We'll see it in the invoice. Well, hopefully we'll see the exact same number lined up to a business premium in the PSA as well. However, to know that there's one unassigned license, and probably more important is like actually who's assigned to which license itself. So again, reading from Partner Center, we can see all the assignments here. And if you notice, we've got, I think it's 10 emails in total. The ability now to be able to exclude one or many users on a case-by-case basis. So you can essentially climb in behind the subscription, look at this information and X out, search for it, X out as you see fit. So if you had info at, boardroom at, we've got ops ad for our operations. We don't bill for that, but we need a license. We're getting billed for it. So this information now extremely granular and flexible. When we had, as we've been building CloudOlive and taking all the data sets and everything together, like the source of truth for a user is one of the most valuable data points an MSP can get totally formally under control within their MSP, communicating it with sales, communicating it with admin, finance, management, most importantly, the client. If it says 10 now, based on these parameters, that is our source of truth, okay? CloudOlive really wants to try and help centralize and bring an option, just an option, to either become the source of truth and have that control, or to begin to be able to validate other services that should, in theory, align to your user counts. Example would be, we've got 10 business premium. Why on earth do we have 15 of this other service? It should be 10. We trust the number 10 now. From a next step, okay, so either as many, like you can naturally add licenses into the NCE module, and this can service if you're already working with us and you've got the full product with reconciliation and MRR insights and stuff. This is included, no additional fees, nothing like that. So make sure you do at least have that on and begin looking at that information. If you run Halo as an example, or a different PSA, or don't run a PSA at all, then as a complete standalone, you can either add users into this, or what we're seeing used quite often is the ability to export this out, comes to you in an email, huge amount of data here that then can be leveraged in whatever means that you need to. So being able to filter on who's unassigned, who the counts are, sending it off to another department, and just making that an easier workflow for yourself. We've seen that workflow done a huge amount of times now, depending if it needs to go to admin or somebody else in admin, someone that works within the distributors, maybe a technician that works specifically within Microsoft. Just an easier path where not everybody needs a license to CloudOlive. Of course, you can do that, but it allows you just to be able to very quickly see, move, and keep going, okay? This does also, I didn't touch on before, but line by line, we can, similar to our other module, but you can leave yourself notes, both searchable and, of course, come out into this, making it a lot easier to be able to then communicate to whoever needs to be communicated to. I would think that most of the distributors that people would be buying from are maybe not routed, actually, that should be on there as well, but it doesn't matter so much. Like, you're getting billed from these companies typically on a monthly basis. We can see now via the API the headline numbers that should align. We do, for the clients that do work with us now, and we do read their Autotask or ConnectWise, we can do some clever things with the data that from NCE that can essentially just act as a new vendor in CloudOlive. So I'll just quickly show you what I mean by that. So this is getting used more and more and more now by our partners, where if you've got a user-based managed services here, so inside of our Autotask, we have what we class as a light user, and we've got something called a full user. Very simple, okay? And in our world, the rules and logic exist to say business basic equates for our light user, not the headline number, but the assigned number. So like, we can then very quickly go 6 minus 1 equals 5. 5 is the assigned number. That should match, that should be our light user. For business premium here, our full user is, we have 3 assigned licenses. We're billing for 8. That's not good. Naturally, we can then just go and update and fix that within the PSA. So the other side where we often were asked, well, what about if we've got business premium plus maybe an E license, or like some other license type that is a user we want to count it into it. I just did the wrong one. Yep. So City West, I just come over here. So City West here, okay, we've got, just keep an eye on these first 2 here. They're both full user. All right. So that's an Autotask service. And we've got business premium where there's 3 assigned users. And we've got dynamics here where there's 2 users. By pairing both of those line items to the exact same service within Autotask, we group the counts together. So 3 + 2 = 5. We should be billing for 5. Everything's perfect. Happy days. Okay. So depending on what your definition is for a source of truth, if you're moving into, hey, I want to bill user more, I really want to go after that, I think that's the right path for our business, but you haven't quite nailed down what are we going to use as a source of truth. This is what a lot of companies are choosing to do. Okay, so they run it ideally as standardized as possible at big license, mailbox full licenses like the business premium, as much as possible, with some nuance and elegance at the edge of that, because nothing is as uniform in the MSP billing game as we would wish it ever was. Okay. Again, if there's any questions that you've got as you go through this, just drop them into the box, and we can try to address them. But we will, at the end of this, we'll have a little bit of Q&A if there's many questions, and also there's a QR code that if you are not working with CloudOlive at all now, you've never had a database with us, you'll have the ability just to self-provision and go through the process, setting this up and make sure it's going to be a fit for you. For partners that work with us already, click on vendors. If you don't see anything in vendors, you don't have it on. You can get the steps within the FAQ, or just drop me an email and we can help out. Alrighty. So, and just a note, so where this information came from was from the export itself, like from here. And then for those who worked with us, you know, we're pretty good at doing formulas and calculations in here. So being able to go unit count here minus unassigned, if that's the count you would like to do, naturally we can just go, give me the headline number to reconcile something else to. Not a problem. However you want to see fit. If you wanted to know, hey, bring in the expiration date for these into the reconciliation to be able to pair it, cool. As many people would know on this call, if there's data in an export, we can bring it into CloudOlive and make it all very, very, very searchable. So in terms of the the broader picture here, we work with now over 180 different vendors, distributors, like custom BI reports that come through. It's really any form of data set that has unit counts, consumption, costs, you name it, anything from any of your suppliers that you would like comfort it's accurate inside of your PSA, then highly likely we've seen it or can certainly manage it quite readily and quite easily. One of the questions that we want to try and drill into, now that we've seen all the huge spectrum of all the different vendors that either certainly make up the tech stack for an MSP, and then you've always got a decision. There's two decisions actually. There's always a decision of what do we show our client on an invoice? Like always one decision that needs to be made. Do we choose to break things apart? Maybe. Or do we have very limited information and just show them the user name? Either or. Okay. So whichever whichever sort of camp you're in, or you might be a blend of those. Just want to drill into this. Okay. So now we've got the actual usage count for the business premium assigned count. Okay. The client most likely understands that number, or has a good indication that someone's left. They know the number that should be licensed to them. So if there's ever a time where you've got a choice to make now, if you show everything on an invoice, is it just easier to make every user-based service that you're selling 32 as it goes through the door and just be like, I don't know why they're different. I'm going to come back and look at it ourselves after we've got the bills out, after we've made the money, let's figure this out. Do you display one line only? Okay, but again, inside the portal. So it solves a similar problem, get money in. The key part about this is though, from a quality control perspective, there's no relationship between any of these services at all. But by being able to see them from the supplier, being able to see them inside the PSA, there really needs to be a decision that should be made or considered. And the best question to ask is, if this happens, if business premium is 32 and Datto SaaS is 25, what do you do next? Do we just bill for the 25? Because that's usage. That's what's in the vendor portal, because they bill at a certain time and they've got a certain criteria and you name it. There's a reason it won't match. Or should it really be in lockstep? And let's just go, right, make it easy. There isn't a right and wrong, but there's pros and cons to both of these that you want to just to understand what you're walking yourself into, if nothing else. And in terms of the overarching picture now for CloudOlive partners, so again, if you are not using Autotask or ConnectWise and have specifically come on here for the NCE module, anyone who resells Microsoft is likely to solve a handful of really key challenges that you're probably dealing with. For those who are using Autotask or ConnectWise and later on this year, Halo PSA, there's the two modules, extra modules that are there now in terms of the main reconciliation, stop revenue leakage, MRR Insights. Again, if you do run one of those systems, don't work with us. There is a free BI tool that when I worked at Autotask for a decade, right? I really wish they built a single view of all recurring billing items with Excel-like filters and the ability to leave notes and track things and understand if 10 doesn't equal 10. That's what MRR Insights is. And it's perfect if you're not working with us and just want to get to know your Autotask or ConnectWise setup in a more granular, organized, structured manner. It's great for that, okay? And then for those who are working with us, okay, there's a new consumption module that's very, very, very close to coming out. We're actually in the final stages of testing now. And this is for those who maybe resell Azure, would, rather than it being on a service, would much prefer to be sort of put in as a charge one time, allows you to back bill them with specific dates within the PSA. Like there's some real elegance that can happen from managing it in that manner, or core record types, international versus local core records. Those things are not that easy to manage within any PSA. So, and also manage print as well is another good example. So this will just take massive files, organize them, and put them in as one-time charges within your relevant PSAs. You'd expect to see some additional information come out about that in the next week to two max, but it's going to be an April go live. I'll just pause there for a second as we go to the final couple of slides and sort of how people can learn more about this and stuff. But we've had a question come through on how long does it take to set up? So I'll take it from the NCE side. Once you sync Microsoft, so generally once you sync across your partner center, and the information should begin flowing immediately, like in the low number of minutes, the information should begin showing. This warning sign, one of the things we learn is that Microsoft is a very big platform, very, very big, and each of your clients can have different conditional access policies set up, which may stop the access from a system like ours to being able to read them from it all, or GDAP has been set up in an inconsistent manner, which again is just limiting the access. So the second things are syncing across, they will populate. And then this will begin to just let us know, hey, we can see this company name, but we can't see any relevant services associated with it. We think it's a conditional access policy, or we think it's a GDAP related Entra limitation. So yeah, good question, but like depending on your database side, 30 minutes to sync, something like that. It's not a lot going on. Like our demonstrations for NCE typically last just shy of 10 minutes because it solves a specific problem in a neat way, and that's it. That's all we're trying to do here. Another one, frequency of sync. So yeah, another good question. So this will sync every 24 hours by default. It will just read whatever's new within Microsoft. Yeah. Okay, cool. So in terms of pricing, so again, if you're using CloudOlive, skip this, you can just start using it. If you just want the NCE module, then this is the pricing here. So this is in USD, 2 users, all your clients, nightly sync, the ability to download, ability to leave notes, all your clients, etc. 2 users gives you access to everything. And then if you want to grow into that, you can add additional seats. We can bill in euros as well, just so and pounds for those who are on that call. Another question, thanks for that, on support in terms of onboarding. Good question. So if you're interested in this, from an onboarding perspective, we generally see there's 2 to 3 calls. If it syncs perfectly, then it's 1.5 calls, 2 calls, right? If we find that the GDAP, like it's just the configuration in Microsoft is a little bit skewed. Again, this will pick it up straight away. We'll work with you to finalize, like to work out exactly what those problems are. And that generally is done remotely, but there can be, like, in terms of just email and all the rest of it, okay, let's try this, let's move forward. But our goal in terms of getting you operational is to make sure that it's solving the problem that you want it to solve, right? So as long as that takes, it's very, very intuitive. However, we're there to hold your hand as much as is required. If there's a QR code, if you've already got a database, don't worry about filling that in. You'll just provision a second one. It will sort of merge into the old one anyway. Megan at cloudolive.com is the best port of call for any queries or questions that come up after this call that you might have. If you want to go through one-on-one or anything like that, but you can completely get started through that QR code. Begin, actually just sync everything across, get familiar with it. And should it be something you want to continue with at the end of the month, then you would subscribe at that time and we'll waive the implementation fee completely for you. Okay. Just see if there's any more questions. Cool. How about that, everyone? You get a minute 50 back in your day. When does that happen? On one of these calls? But we'll leave it open for the next 30 seconds or so if there's any questions that anybody has. Otherwise, we generally, as always, appreciate everyone taking their time out of your day. I hope you found it of use. Yeah, Robert, we'll circulate these afterwards. That was just, will we be able to share the slides and everything? And more than happy to, with anyone who registered should get good access to this. Cool. All right, team, have a wonderful morning and day over there. I think you're just about to start your afternoon, but for those who work with us, so generally, as always, really appreciate your continued investment into us, and yeah, keep pushing us along and telling us where we can improve. We want to hear it all. But have a great day, everyone. Appreciate your time.